Loyalty. It's one of those words we all like to throw around, like it's simple, like it's obvious. But the truth is, loyalty isn't real until it's tested. And most people, they never test it. They assume it. They see someone laughing with them, showing up for drinks, cheering for their wins, and think, this one's loyal. But let me ask you this. What happens when the wins stop? Machiavelli, yes, the one you're thinking of, had a different take. In his world, and frankly in ours too, loyalty wasn't declared, it was discovered. Quietly, strategically, sometimes, yes, even brutally. Because the truth is uncomfortable. Most of the people around you aren't loyal to you. They're loyal to the benefits of being around you. Your status, your energy, your light. And the moment those benefits fade, so do they. Machiavelli knew that. That's why he didn't just believe in loyalty, he tested for it. Let me walk you through the first test. It's so subtle, it barely looks like a test at all. Test 1. Withdraw the spotlight. Stop praising them. Don't text first. Don't comment on their wins. Don't hype them up like you normally do. Just pull back. A little. Quietly. Now watch. Some people will start to shift. They'll grow distant, cold, maybe even annoyed. Not because you hurt them, but because you stopped feeding the part of them that felt seen through you. That's not loyalty. That's addiction. Not to you, but to how you made them feel. And Machiavelli would have said, those people were never with you. They were with your applause. But the real ones, they do something different. They lean in, they check in, they feel the shift and care. They don't need your spotlight to feel close to you. They just need you. No bells, no praise, no stage. Because loyalty doesn't disappear when attention does. It gets louder, in private. Test 2. Introduce uncertainty. Tell them you're thinking of making a big move, maybe switching jobs, starting something risky, moving cities, changing directions. Just watch their reaction. Do they back you? Encourage you to leap? Or do they hesitate? Question your decision. Wrap their fear in concern. It'll sound like care. I just don't want you to get hurt. Are you sure this is a good idea? But listen closely. Often what they're really saying is, don't outgrow me. Because your change threatens their comfort. If you succeed, maybe you'll leave them behind. And that's what shakes them. Real loyalty, it adapts. It doesn't resist your growth. It supports it. Fake loyalty, it anchors you. Not because it hates you, but because it fears losing the version of you it depends on. So just listen. Don't respond too much. Let them talk. The more they speak, the clearer their motives get. Are they worried for you, or worried about what your change means for them? Test 3. Go silent. Not out of spite, not to punish, just go quiet. No updates, no posts, no calls. Let the air go still. Now pay attention to who notices. Some people will disappear, not because they're busy, but because they were only around when you were loud, visible, performing. Spectators, not supporters. Real loyalty doesn't need your performance. It doesn't need a show. It needs presence, even when you're absent. The people who care will reach out with quiet concern. You okay? Not, why aren't you answering? That's the difference. Machiavelli would say, the absence of presence reveals the presence of absence. Meaning what? When you go quiet, the fake vanish, and the real show up without being asked. And yes, this one might hurt, because it strips away your illusion. But that illusion is what's dangerous. Better a painful truth than a comfortable lie. Because the most dangerous people aren't always loud enemies. They're quiet ones, close ones, the ones you didn't see coming because they wore smiles while you struggled. Machiavelli didn't fear the army outside the gates. He feared the betrayal already sitting at his table.
Test 4. Let them see you weak. This one's hard, especially if you're used to being strong. Show uncertainty. Let a little bit of your armor fall. Don't perform weakness, just stop performing strength. And now watch. Some people will lean in, offer support, sit in the discomfort with you. That's rare. That's loyalty. But others? They'll back away. Not because you hurt them, but because your weakness disrupts the image they needed. You were their ladder, their safety net, their symbol of strength. And when you falter, their comfort does too. Some people aren't loyal to you, just to your stability. Once the cracks show, they're gone, off to find the next steady hand to hold. Machiavelli knew, the one who stays when the palace shakes, that's the one you want when it's rebuilt. These tests aren't cruel, they're clarifying. They don't expose people to hurt them, they expose people to see them. Because when someone fails one of these tests, they haven't just failed you, they've failed the chance to be real. And the only way to know is to watch.
All right, now let's talk about the 5th test, probably the coldest but also the most telling of them all. Test 5. Give them a chance to betray you. Not in some dramatic soap opera way, not with traps or fake stories, just create a moment where choosing themselves over you benefits them. Give them an opening, something small but real, where stepping over you gives them an advantage. And then, observe. Watch what they do. Do they tell you up front? Do they hide it and hope you won't find out? Do they make excuses later like, I didn't think it was a big deal, or I was gonna tell you? See, this test isn't about the betrayal itself. It's about what they value. Not what they say they value, what they actually choose when it costs them. And that choice, that's the truth. Because here's the brutal reality. Most people won't pass all 5 tests. Not because they're evil, but because real loyalty isn't common. What's common is transaction, convenience, ego, image. Machiavelli understood this. He didn't run these tests to be cruel, he ran them for clarity. He didn't want to guess who was in his corner, he needed to know. And the moment you start thinking like this, observing people, withdrawing a little, watching how they behave, everything changes. You'll start losing people, yes, but what you gain? Peace, quiet, loyalty that's proven, not pretended. You'll start to realize you don't need 10 people who cheer when you win. You need 1 or 2 who stay when it's hard. People who believe when there's no evidence. People who protect you even when you're not there to see it. Because most of the people around you are shadows. They show up for the light, they vanish in the dark. They smile and nod and tell you they're with you, but really, they're with themselves. Machiavelli would call this out for what it is, camouflage, a performance of connection, a soft, quiet theater where everyone pretends to care until they don't. And unless you're willing to test, to really see, you'll spend your life trusting masks. You'll build relationships on sand. You'll make plans with people who are quietly waiting for their exit. So when you test someone, when you pull back, introduce risk, or offer a silent moment, you're not being mean, you're being precise. You're not creating betrayal, you're revealing it. And yes, people will push back. They'll say, you're cold now, that you've changed. They'll guilt trip you. You used to be so close. You're paranoid. You don't trust me anymore.
You know what? They're right. You don't trust them, not until they've earned it. Not until they've passed the trials Machiavelli would have called necessary, not once, not just during the good times, but again and again in silence, in change, in discomfort, in uncertainty. You don't hand out trust like compliments. You build it with observation. And something strange starts to happen when you live this way. The people who once smiled so easily, their tone shifts. Their body language changes, their energy pulls away. Why? Because when you stop being easy to read, the ones who relied on your blind spots get nervous. Your awareness becomes a threat. They can feel you watching, testing, choosing with more care. And the guilty ones? They'll never say you caught me. No, they'll say you've become too distant, or you're overthinking it. That's how you know the test worked. Because a fake friend isn't always a villain. Sometimes they're just fragile. They fold under pressure. They crumble when it costs them. They change the moment you change.
Machiavelli said it clearly. The weak will always mistake strength for cruelty. This is where most people trip. They see the signs, they run the test, they feel the truth, but they stay because of history, because of fear, because of that old dangerous whisper, but what if I'm wrong? Let me say it straight, you're not. If you feel tension, if your energy drops around them, if your victories feel like something you need to downplay, you already know. You're just avoiding the consequences of acting on it. But here's what Machiavelli understood better than most. Control doesn't come from comfort. It comes from clarity. If you're building anything, a career, a reputation, a vision, you can't afford to guess who's loyal. You have to know. And here's the paradox. When you begin to live this way, more discerning, more observant, more intentional, the right people reveal themselves too. The silence doesn't just expose betrayal, it exposes real loyalty too. When you pull back and someone steps forward, not because they need something, but because they feel you pulling away and want to check in, that's real. That's not ego. That's not performance. That's alignment. And it doesn't come often, but when it does, you protect it like it's gold. Because one loyal person is worth more than 100 comfortable ones. Loyalty doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need a stage. It doesn't ask for applause. It's quiet. It's steady. It's there even when you're not. And the beauty of these tests? You don't need confrontation. No fights. No dramatic scenes. Just patterns. Just silence. Just truth.
Now let's take this even deeper. You've run the tests. You've watched how people move when you speak less, when you shine less, when you risk more, and you start seeing something clearly. Most people were never with you. They were with the image of you, with the benefit of you, with the version of you that helped them, lifted them, entertained them. And when that version paused, they vanished. It's a hard truth, but one that gives you the greatest gift of all: clarity. You stop mistaking company for connection. You stop thinking presence means support. You realize most people are standing next to you out of habit, not out of honor. And that's when it happens, the real shift. You begin pulling back not to test, but because you don't need to explain anymore. You start cutting, not with anger, but with precision. You become quiet, not because you're hiding, but because you're selective. And with that silence comes power. Machiavelli understood this. Power is never loud. It's measured. It watches. It moves with purpose. And once you've run these tests, once you've seen who stays, who shifts, who folds, you've earned something others never will. A circle that's fortified, not just full. You now know who's real, who passed, who showed up without being called, who stood behind you not because they wanted credit, but because they believed. That's your core, not your network, not your followers, not your crowd. Your core, the few who proved themselves in fire. And here's the part no one tells you. Once you've found even one or two like that, everything changes. Your back feels watched. Your steps feel lighter. Your thoughts get sharper. You stop second-guessing every room you walk into. You don't worry who's talking behind your back because you know who's guarding it. You stop over-explaining your ideas. You stop softening your words because now you've got someone who gets it, who protects your silence like it's sacred. But here's the twist. The loyalty test doesn't just apply to them. It applies to you, too. Because after all the observing, the filtering, the refining, the real question becomes, are you loyal in silence? Do you protect others when no one's watching? Do you defend the ones who defended you? Do you stay when it's not easy, when there's nothing in it for you, when it costs? That's the final evolution. Because Machiavelli didn't just demand loyalty, he embodied it. Fierce, selective, consistent. He knew if you want to build something lasting, something strong, your own behavior has to be sharper than everyone around you. You don't flinch when tested. You don't betray the few who passed yours. You become someone worthy of trust, not through performance, but through discipline, through silence, through protection that asks for nothing in return. But make no mistake, being loyal does not mean tolerating weakness. It doesn't mean giving more chances to someone who already showed you who they are. It means that when you do find the rare one, the one who stays when you pull away, who supports your growth, who doesn't crumble when you're unsure, who checks in when you go quiet, and who refuses to take advantage even when it's easy, you hold that person close, not in your circle, in your core.
Because that kind of loyalty is a weapon, a shield, an edge. And once it's tested and proven, it's more valuable than money, than followers, than praise. It's the difference between building on sand and building on stone. So from now on, you move differently. You speak less. You observe more. You let time reveal people instead of words. You use distance as a tool, silence as a weapon, and stillness as a filter. And when someone fails your test, you don't make it a scene. You don't ask them to explain. You don't beg them to stay. You just go quiet. You close the door and let the echo speak louder than any goodbye ever could. Because they already left you in spirit, you're just finalizing the paperwork. And from that silence, something rare is born, certainty. Not comfort, not hope, not guesswork. Certainty. You know who's with you, you know who's not, and most importantly, you know you. You know how to move now, who to trust, what to build, and who to never let inside again. Machiavelli never said trust no one. He said trust with purpose, trust with proof, trust with tests. And when that trust holds, you honor it. Not with praise, not with noise, but with access, with protection, with your own quiet loyalty returned. Because in the end, this isn't about being feared. It's not even about being respected. It's about building something real, something rare, something unshakable, an empire. Whether that empire is your business, your family, your mental peace, or your reputation. Built not on volume, but on value. And once you've cleared out the noise, once the weak ties are gone, that's when the foundation sets. That's when you stop explaining yourself. That's when you stop watching your back. Because now you know, the ones still standing, they didn't arrive by accident. They survived the fire. They passed the test, and they'll never need to prove it again.